Hi class, this is going to be a little mini lecture describing what sharps and flats are, right? Sharps and flats are called chromatic signs in music, as well as in natural, but we'll get into that later. Right now we need to focus on sharps and flats. And there's only two things that we need to remember with sharps and flats. Sharps make a note go higher. Flat makes a note go lower. I tell all of my little 4- and 5-year-olds in my private studio, what happens when your tire goes flat? It sinks down. I go, yes, flats lowers the note. Therefore the sharp is the opposite. It goes up. So if we were to sharp, say, our favorite note, middle C, this C that we're so familiar with, right? This middle C. If I were to sharp it, I would raise this note exactly a half step. In other words, the note immediately to the right of it, the black note, right? So if I come across a C and there is a sharp in front of it, I know that that note is not a white note. It is an altered note, a black note. Likewise, if I played a G and I saw a flat next to it, I would lower it a half step. I would lower it a half step. I would go to the immediate left and down of the note. Yet again, that would be a black note. Let's look at what these symbols look like. Here, we have a sharp. I say it raises a note 1/2 step. A flat, it lowers the note. Let's review what that looks like on a piano then. So if I had, our first example was C sharp. Here's my C, and if I were to see it in music as a sharp with this symbol in front of it, I would play that note. Never that note, that note. Likewise, if I saw the note G, but this was in front of it, this flat, I would not play this G, I would go down a half step. Flat, remembering half steps are nothing more than the immediate note right next to it. Right? So now let's think about some common pitfalls that people might experience. When we see a key signature like this, this is the key signature of G major. Right? And you'll see this in your book. Right? You will see this in your book. I believe page 23 has the key signature of G major. As we can see, there's a sharp written in this key signature. And we have to ask ourselves, what line is this sharp written on? Well, let's review. E, G, B, D, F. F sharp. What about the bass clef? G, B, D, F. F sharp again. What that is telling us, that is musician shorthand for whatever F you encounter on the keyboard, whether it's this F, this F, this F, this F. Does not matter which F you encounter. They will always be sharped. In other words, in the key of G major, this F no longer exists. This F is now F sharp. That is what this key signature tells us. Now let's look at an example of a flat key. Here's the key of F major. In fact, I'm going to write this in here for you guys. Here's the key of G major and the key of F, right? And if I see this key signature, I say to myself, okay, well, what note is that? Well, that's G, B. So that means all B's are flats. What is the right hand telling me? Should be telling me the same thing in the treble clef. E, G, B. Indeed it does. Both of these flats are located on the B line in these clefs. So it tells me that when I look at my keyboard and I play, this B no longer exists. All B's in the entire piece of music are now flat. So flat goes down a half step. It is now a flat. Try to find that on your keyboard. B flat. Find F sharp. Now, what it would look like in music, if it's not in the key signature, say I had a C, I would see a little sharp in front of it. Or I saw a G, I would see a little flat in front of it. But we're not going to encounter that too much in our music right now. We're just going to encounter key signatures that tell us, always remember that if we're in G, this F is always sharp. All the Fs, not just that F. If we're in this key signature and we see this flat at the beginning of the piece of music, it will always be at the beginning of the piece of music. All of those notes, meaning Bs, are flatted. There might be some questions about, well, there's multiple locations for F. Why don't we just put those sharps where every F exists on the piano? Well, I can tell you that there are some key signatures out there that contain 7 sharps in them. In other words, every note in the scale is sharped. So if we wrote 7 sharps for each note in the scale and then multiplied that by 6, my key signature would have 42 sharps in it. That would be almost impossible to keep track of. So we as musicians said, you know what? 1 sharp is good enough, and that should tell the musician that every note that they encounter with that sharp location is going to be raised up 1/2 step. So in G major, that F, it's not just that F, it's every single F on the keyboard is sharped. That concludes this lecture. So let's review real quick. Sharps, raise the note 1/2 step. Flats, lower the note 1/2 step. And if we encounter these accidentals or chromatic signs in a key signature, it means that whatever line or space that chromatic sign is on, that note for the entire piece of music into every measure and in every instance is forever altered. After this, scales should become much easier for us to tackle. Till next time.